loose for the line. Hits the line. Reynolds. You can take me now. I have seen it all. I have seen everything.
Welcome to the ultimate Supercoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Yes, g'day guys. We are live for another episode of the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast. Welcome to the Sunday Sesh, where we talk all things round 9 of NRL Supercoach, proudly sponsored by the Standard Squeeze. I am your host, the Supercoach Brain, proud Tigers supporter this week for the first time all season. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, probably not as proud as me, Broncos supporter, Supercoach Mattrix. Matty, a little bit disappointing for your Broncos this week, but honestly, I don't care. I'm pretty happy.
Oh, how the turntables.
It's a bit like that, isn't it? Usually you're the bragger, how good are the Broncos? And every time the Broncos chat rolls around, you're feeling pretty good. Mate, it's all about the Tigers this week. So strap in, anybody who's watching. It's going to be 50 minutes of Tigers talk and maybe 10 minutes of Supercoach. But
yeah, cool. I'll just go. See ya.
Yeah, you head off, grab a beer, mate, and I'll let you know when I'm done. No, on a serious note, guys, on today's show, we'll talk about, obviously, round 9, all the booms, all the busts, all the games, Q&A as well. Drop your comments. Let us know how you went this week. Any questions that you have about the week just gone or the week coming up. Obviously, Magic Round is approaching. If you go into Magic Round, and I know that Maddie, being a local, might want to catch up with a few people there if you can get some tickets. But drop some comments throughout the show, guys. We'll answer them if you have any questions throughout. We'll talk about our trades at the end of the show as well. Our early trade thoughts. It is only Sunday night, so there's plenty to think about still. Guys, please subscribe, please like, please follow. If you want to go the extra mile, you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch or wherever it is, or even if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Tell a mate about the pod if you like the content. We would appreciate it. Matty, how'd you go, mate? How'd you go this weekend?
1,099. I really had a Reed Mid-Marnie week.
Reed Midney? Was it Reed Midney?
Yeah, Reed Midney. Thanks, Miss Bro. Yeah, it's a 10 in the bin for that one. Look, it was rocks or diamonds. There was a few guys that turned up. Some real disappointments. I think I spent nearly 2 million for 100 points at one stage with some of my players. Dillbags and Captain Nico really helped me out. So.
Yeah, great start to the week, wasn't it? I think there was a lot of people that went straight C on Nico after
25%. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, 25% really isn't that much. When you think about the top 1% or the top 5% and the people that are trying to make moves in the competition, you got 75% of people, that didn't make that move. And they probably had the C on Cleary and they'd be in a world of hurt, wouldn't they, after that? We'll obviously cover that very soon, but
it just something that was mentioned a lot during the week, the weather. You don't always think about it when it comes to Supercoach, but it was really relevant this week.
It was massive. I actually made a lot of my moves this week based on that. Maybe more so captaincy than anything. I think I never go straight C on a Thursday night, but I thought, you know what? It's going to be one of 3 out of 8 games that are going to be dry this weekend. And we saw the effect of that from a Supercoach perspective. It's harder for teams to shift the ball. The wingers and the edges struggle a little bit more with the ball handling and the errors and all that kind of stuff as well. So probably good if you took a punt on one of those first 3 games that were dry.
Yeah, I reckon if it rained, it wouldn't have worried Campbell Graham, though.
Didn't seem like it, did it? We'll cover Campbell Graham very soon. He had an absolute blinder, didn't he? But I finished on 12-19. So this is probably the best week I've had, I think, in comparison to other teams this year. I feel like I don't know whether you feel the same, but I feel like I avoided all the carnage. Like there were outs coming left, right, and center. Madison obviously was ruled out really late. A lot of other teams, obviously Storm are on the bye, which is a very popular team and a good player or good players to own in Supercoach. And then players just started dropping like flies, left, right, and center. And Max King went down, obviously, midweek throughout the week as the round started. So I feel like I avoided every single bad move, which obviously it's very lucky, and it's gonna catch up with me very soon. Did you avoid all that turmoil as well?
Yeah, so with my trades, I which we'll talk about a bit later on during the games, but I copped Tyrell Sloan, getting him in. But I'm really quite happy with it because he did score more than Turbo, which I traded him out for. So pretty happy about that one. It was a real step up.
How many did Turbo get?
I think it was like 18 less than Tyrell Sloan. I don't know. I had him on two screens. So
yeah, beautiful. Good on you.
Yeah,
no, that's a great move.
Played Khan Pereira, which it's probably the 1 week this is actually the first time I've ever played Khan Pereira. And yeah,
week to play him.
He had the second best score with the Titans. I just like the way that they looked, and I thought Manly would be ordinary, and they are.
Yes, they definitely are. Without Turbo, you can just see the impact that Turbo has on that team, can't you? And I don't know whether moving Ruben Garrick to the centres was a good move. I think that was a bit of a rookie error from Seabold. I don't understand that move at all. But anyway, I'm not a coach. We won't pretend to be coaches.
Seabold might not be for longer either. So
yeah, mate. It's a good point. That's a good point. Guys, obviously, we've got some amazing sponsors on board, and the Standard Squeeze is one of them. I've got my 4-in-1 here that is keeping my beer nice and cold for this whole show. The good thing is I'm not going to have to worry about keeping my beer cold. And Matty has the Standard Squeeze right there. What do you got in it?
Well, I've got some Dasher and Fisher Slow Gin. Yeah, really nice for a saucy Sunday night. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the Tasmanian trip that you brought back?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I've had to go back and get a couple bottles, but yeah,
nice. How good. And you can obviously
Tasmanian gin.
You can obviously drink responsibly and conveniently, I guess, when you can squeeze the bottle there that Matty showed on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, and get the perfect pour every single time. So go and check out their website at thestandardsqueeze.com and use the code INSIGHT15 to get 15% off at checkout. Mate, let's dig into these games because there's a fair bit to talk about this weekend. Obviously, that's why we're here.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the bloodbath.
Mate, go for it.
Sharks 44 defeated the Cowboys 6, and the Cowboys were the Sharks' chum in this one.
They were. I mean, the big talking point is obviously Nico Hines, isn't it? Like 126. I was actually thinking he was going to upgrade a little bit more than that, to be honest.
He's a bit underdone, I think.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. I was thinking he was going to upgrade above 140, if I'm completely honest, but not upset, obviously, with 126 as a captain.
And disallowed with a try assist and a few things there that got a bit unlucky. But Nico, you could just see he could have nearly went 180 in this game. I think non-owners or non-captainers kind of dodged a bullet, which is weird to say when we're talking about 125 points.
Yeah, as a captainer, you're not upset, are you? But
no.
In saying that, a lot of people had the captaincy on Joey Manu this afternoon. So either if you had the captaincy on Joey Manu or Nathan Cleary, you'd be a little bit upset hindsight-wise. Harry Hindsight would probably pop out and go, should have gone Nico Thursday night. But
Nico Hindsight.
Yeah, good. I'll clip that one up later. I'll keep it for you. I'll send it through to you in Messenger. But no, obviously, if you had the balls to captain Nico Hines, it is a risky move captaining Thursday night, knowing HIAs and all the other things that can pop up in games. Nico Hines could have easily taken a knock early on and been out for the game. So,
but is Nico C just a play every week? What's his last score this year? 85.
Yeah,
I'm not worried.
No, and especially against the Cowboys, who have been dead set awful all season. That was
they still are.
Load. Yeah,
read my notes. Cowboys are bad at football.
Mate, I tell you what, who also thinks that, Ronnie Mulatalo, 97. He had a good game, and you said, I remember on Tuesday when we did the Tuesday, was it Tuesday or Wednesday episode, whatever it was?
Yeah, Wednesday.
That you were worried about not owning Mulatalo this week, and obviously that came through. 97. He had a good game. Yeah,
he would have been my top scoring center. I just couldn't make the moves I wanted to move without look, AJ was a bit cheaper, and I do like AJ's draw as well. yeah, look, just disappointing, really.
Yeah, bit of a tough one, isn't it? Sifa Talakai 92, Wilton 85, Kennedy 74. The Sharks backline. Obviously, when you put 44 points on a team, you're going to score pretty well, Supercoach wise. I guess the one question from me is like, there's really no positives to take from the Cowboys. I mean, Dearden got 76, but he's not a buy. Are you like, is this a situation now where we fade anybody from the Cowboys?
Look, I was pretty happy with Robson. I think he got nearly 70, and it was enough. Oh, 56. Sorry, 56. Sorry, I was looking at last week's. Yeah, look, he got 56, and I think in an absolute bloodbath, if you can bang out 56, you're a hold for me.
Yep.
I don't expect him. Like, I tell you what, the Sharks and the Rabbitohs put the league on notice this week. You know, with losses from the Panthers and the Broncos, look, Sharks and the Rabbitohs look fantastic, and I think I'm okay with playing Robson basically any week now, but I'll probably think again. We had a couple of chats during the week, and we were sort of like, look, maybe we should be playing Val and matchup. And when you're playing, you know, a top 4 team, maybe you just don't play him.
Yeah, I guess that's my next question with Val. Is he a sell? Considering that when we look at Val, the next 4 games for the Cowboys, they've got the Roosters, but then which is going to be a tough game for Val. And then they've got the Dragons into the Tigers into Parramatta, who leak points. So, I mean, is he just a hold up until Origin, and then you think about what you're going to do there?
Yeah, I'm going to hold him.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the same page. That was always the plan. And, like, imagine if he scores 180 and that in there, and you've just moved him out. Like, what else are you going to get for, like, he's dropped in value a little bit. You know, he's late 600s. Like, what else are you going to get? Like, you're spending an extra probably, 60K to get Mulatalo, which has a lower floor. Like, Val did absolutely nothing, and I know it's not a lot, but he did still get his points out of the 1 goal kick. Like, he's still going to get something.
Yeah, I am concerned about the Cowboys, but I feel like we're at a point where Val is just, he's still 700K. He'll probably be maybe 670 after price changes this week. Like, at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. I feel like 670, he's going to have a high break even next week. But look, you know, the Roosters haven't exactly been amazing, have they? Like, yeah, they held the Warriors to 0 today, but it's not like they've been setting the league on fire. So you never know what they could do. It could just literally, this golden draw could actually start now when we actually think it's not going to. So funnier things have happened. But I think
worry about some of the Cowboys' injuries and that too. Nanois does score tries for them as much as he's not a Supercoach watch for me. Nano's pretty good at football. But yeah, he's out 4 to 5 weeks as well. So
yeah, old Nano's going to miss, I think, 4 weeks of early plea because it's his second suspension this year. He's going to probably miss half the season at this rate, the way that he's going with that. That was a bad hip drop though, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah,
no
it looked
good.
Pretty bad. Supercoach-wise, Goshuski should be playing extended minutes, probably not going to drop out of the team. Look, he's just not that good. He's going to punch out 40s in 80 minutes. Yeah, look, he's not somebody I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, he's, what is he? He's going to be about 270, 275 maybe by the end of this week once prices change. Probably have another negative break even or maybe close to it. He got 41 in this game and 2RF. I mean, do we really need cheapies in 2RF? Not really. You know, we're looking for that front row forward cheapie, aren't we? That person that just appears out of nowhere that we can get at 240K or something. So
yeah, maybe once we start talking about the Sea Eagles, you might be looking for somebody cheap.
Yeah, or even the Dragons. I've got one on my list that I'm watching pretty closely at the Dragons front row forward. That's pretty cheap. So we'll see how we go there. Hey mate, so obviously the Sharks don't have round 13 availability. So, you know, when we start to get a little bit closer now to the bye rounds, it's going to be really important to look at whether teams are playing round 13 or not. Cowboys do, Sharks don't. So in keeping that in mind, do you still look at Mulatalo, Talakai, Wilton, Nickera? Are you looking at any of those guys now, or is it a little bit too late or a little bit too close to Origin?
I think we've missed the boat on Mulatalo. Like, it's crazy. Like, as a guy that I've seen score 14 in some games, it's crazy to pay 700 plus for that. Nikora, you're paying 700 plus. Talakai, I could sort of get around, and I know that I'm shooting myself in the foot because I said that I'd never own Talakai, and I probably won't. But at 580, that edge just looks like that side just looks electric. He's creating a lot of space for Mulatalo over there. When they do play without Nico, he was still pretty good. He's probably the only guy I'd look at. I'm not looking to add Teague Wilton. If you held him, then great. You own him. Don't trade him. But yeah, right now I'm not looking at any of those guys, even though would you look at Kennedy? Like, he scores tries and still only scores 70. So
no, I mean, he's fullback only. I don't feel like he's in the top maybe 4 guys I'd look at this point in the time at this point in the season. I don't know. When you mentioned Talakai, I got the shiver down my spine. I just got this like PTSD that kicked in that from last season when I got him in and he did nothing for me for about 15 rounds. It was that kind of you hold on to him because you bought him at such a price and you're really hoping he kicks back and does something for you, and he just never does.
Just never did. Yeah.
No, it was no good. So I don't know whether I can go there again, but yeah, you're right. You're spot on. I think that they've been pretty good down that left edge. So funny things have happened. But in saying that, we're talking about Talakai with Wade Graham on his inside. This is a completely different season with Teague Wilton there, and we know that Talakai scored really well. I think he averaged 100 last year when Teague Wilton was on his inside. So, I mean, hey, that might be a really good play, and a pod play at that, by the looks of things.
I prefer Talakai than Mulatalo with how much money you'd have to cough up for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, very quickly, we'll get stuck into some questions. There's a few coming through. Damo's blinded by my kit. So I've got the scarf off and the hat. It was bloody hot. I'm telling you, I only put it on for kind of shock value because the Tigers won their first game for the season. I leave the jersey on, obviously, but yeah, bit hot here for all the orange. What else have we got? So a few good scores coming in. 12:39 from Jackson. That's a big score. Banks 12:32 and Jackson took the C off Cleary 2 minutes before the Manly game and then put it on for feeder. Well played.
Brilliant.
Very well played. Damo's trying to get Holmes out. We've already spoken about Holmes a little bit. Maybe hold this week. I reckon he probably a hold. Maybe even until Origin, I think. Shots, TP, I'm assuming he means TPJ. 20-odd points this week. Selling for Jack DeBellin. Hey, that Jack DeBellin shout from me wasn't bad last week. What did he get? 70-odd?
You know what makes me feel so much better about your takes? You looked super surprised when you just said that. Oh, Jack DeBellin. Did I tell you? He did good.
Yeah, I know. I never usually back my own takes. The problem is, like, a lot of the time, the amount of Supercoach research that we do to run this podcast, like, we're looking at every player in depth. We're looking at all the trends. We're looking at all the numbers. So, like, there's about 15 or 20 blokes that you could easily just take and go, you know what? This is a punt. I could take this guy. But Jack DeBellin stood out. But I wasn't ballsy enough and or probably didn't need to make that move this week, considering his break even was still 41 or something. But he's definitely someone I'm looking at now. Him and Jack Bird are both in my eyesight, I think.
Not Sloan?
Hey, no. Hey, how funny is it that I came into the podcast last week on Tuesday when teams were named, or Wednesday, sorry, going, hey, Sloan's in my team. And you're like, no, not a fan. And then eventually I don't go Sloan. You do. So you've talked me out of him and I've talked you into him. Shocking. Yeah, I'm devastated. Absolutely shocking. How good is that?
Still scored more than Turbo, though.
He did score more than Turbo because Turbo didn't play. Turbo got 0. But anyway, that's fine. We'll move on, mate. We'll move on to the Eels versus the Knights. This was another bloodbath, wasn't it? 43-12, the Eels prevailed. Mitchy Moses, 147. I actually had someone on Twitter comment on one of my posts saying that they traded out Nathan Cleary this week for Mitchell Moses. I'm sorry, but if you don't have a crystal ball and you're not some sort of messiah, you're not making that move. That is incredible play, whoever did that.
My wife did that as well.
That is insane. Insane.
I was saying that Cleary was out, and she's like, "Oh, well, I don't want him in my team." And I was like, "Oh, Cleary's back." And she's like, "Oh, I've already done my trades." So.
How good. Sometimes it's the simplest moves, isn't it? In Supercoach, you just say, "Yeah, that's all right. Who cares? We'll see what happens." Mate, Gutho 113. I'm really happy with that because I made the move instead of getting Sloan to get Gutho in for Turbo. So 113, very happy. Hopgood as well has become Supercoach relevant again. Miraculously from finally getting a start again, which he always should get a start.
I think there should be a bit of a, I suppose, a disclaimer that I still think that he's a bit of a trap. Like, you wouldn't buy him in now because Matto's going to be coming back.
Yeah,
Like,
Matto,
he's going to go back to the bench.
you reckon Hopgood goes back to the bench? Because they originally named Madison on the edge for this game.
Yeah.
And they put Cartwright back to the bench.
Yeah, but then they rotate Matto around, and then Hopgood's going to lose a lot of minutes. I think that he's got his 50s and 60s, and he's as good as Preston. I wouldn't pay up for Hopgood now.
Yeah, I mean, the argument now is that Madison could every chance for Origin. So if that happens, then potentially Madison misses a bit of time through the middle of the season. You're getting these Eels players because they're playing round 13, 16, and 19, right? Otherwise, you probably look elsewhere. Now, if Madison's picked for Origin, which, look, we don't know whether this is going to happen. You know, Hopgood could be relevant. He could go back to what he was doing at the start of the season. Who knows? It's all guesswork. But yeah, I'm happy I didn't sell.
Yeah, they're not going to play the Knights every week. Look, I just think that you'd be crazy to get Hopgood in right now.
Yeah. Look, I actually don't think it's a bad move to get him back in. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't think it's a bad move. I think that there's going to be plenty of minutes on offer. You've obviously got Regan Campbell-Gillard, which we're forgetting he's out for 8 to 10 weeks. I mean, Wiramu Greg isn't going to be going and playing 60 minutes a game, is he? So like there's minutes up for grabs in the middle of the field for the Eels.
He scored a good 50 for those who got him for 200K.
One of the best 41s I've ever seen. Very, very good.
40, it was 49.
Oh, sorry. I've sold him 8 points short. My fault. But hey, how about
he usually only scores 8, so.
You know how you said Hopgood, he's not going to play the Knights every week. How about the 101 that he got against Melbourne and the 124 he got against Cronulla? Does that count?
I captained him.
Mate, yes. And you're going against him. You got 77 against Penrith. Come on, man.
Look,
you've got to admit you're wrong sometimes.
Sometimes you just got to move on. Look, he's not going to do this every week. Matto's going to come back in. He's going to lose those minutes. Might even come back off the bench at times because Cardi was looking good.
Yeah, Cardi actually had a really good game. The Cardi party continues. It's like 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, when you're at a party and the sun starts to come up. That's where we're at right now, I think, with Cardi. So that's going to end very quickly. I can see Cardi going back to the bench. That's the way I see this playing out. Cardi goes back to the bench, which is exactly how they lined up this week. Madison might start at lock. He might start on an edge. I don't know. They'll probably rotate him in the middle and on the edge anyway, like they have all year. But I don't know. I don't mind. I don't mind Hopgood. I still think that maybe he's a play.
Yep.
But
cool.
How about Bradman Best basically ruining Marju? Because I don't know how much you watch this game, but that bloke didn't look left all. He's been taking some plays out of the Isaac Tungo playbook and didn't look left all game, did he?
It's false advertising. He's not the best.
He's not following with the name, is he? Is Bradman not the best at all? Not very good.
No, and look, again, I've got off Marju pretty happy right now. Not looking at too many Knights players with the way that they've been playing. Really glad that I dodged the bullet of, Phoenix Crossland and maybe looking at Safidi once his brother was out or, Marju. Look, even Lockie Millers didn't score very well this game, and he has been probably the best fullback, I suppose, for the year, nearly, not called Latrell.
And he's still goal kicking, which is great. He's gonna leak a ton of cash. He could be a pickup because they play round 13. He could be a pickup around round 11 and 12, and you can just enjoy those points that you're going to get from him moving forward. Get him at a discount. But
not looking at anyone about the Knights, but Dylan Brown repaid those people that paid the money for him.
Yeah, he did. I got him in 2 weeks ago, and he's got me a 67 and a 109. So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, and like Sean Lane's dropping cash. There's a lot to talk about with the Eels, especially with that golden draw. I think you want to have 3 Parramatta Eels players going into round 13.
Yeah, I was about to ask you how many Eels you're going into the bye rounds with. Yeah, if 3's your answer, I'm pretty much on the same page because I think they obviously have a bye in round 14, which isn't ideal. Yep. It's kind of like a mini bye round in itself that we talked about on Tuesday. So I have Hopgood, Brown, and Gutho.
Dunster.
And Gutho. No, I don't have Dunster, luckily.
Oh, okay.
And obviously Dunster got 25. Look, he only needs 1 try to then get going. So that'll come soon enough with their draw. Kalen Ponga, though, he had an absolute stinker, didn't he? 16. He just didn't look good at all.
I look at it and I'm like, oh, he's leaking cash. You never
My
know.
note here says that Ponga is going to be 440k after this week. Can you imagine picking up Kalen Ponga at 400k?
Yeah, because we're going to be having this discussion in 2 weeks. If he doesn't get picked for Origin, he's in my team. Can you imagine going straight from Isaiah Katoa to Kalen Ponga?
Sideways. Goodness,
That's probably
me.
a better one.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good shout.
And look, maybe you just
it's
play him on matchups. Can I tell you that 5'8's been awful? You just play him on matchups, and if they're playing the Tigers, then you just I can't make that joke this week. If they're playing the Broncos, you play them.
Oh, mate, the Broncos have the best defense in the comp, so I'm definitely not playing them against the Broncos. Let's move on to that game, I guess, considering we're talking about them. Rabbitohs 32, Broncos 6. Tough game for the Broncos. Both teams play round 13, so the teams we're talking about or the players we're talking about here are in contention for that round 13 bye. Campbell Graham, though, goodness me, made the Broncos look like the Tigers, didn't he? 132.
He made Herbie Farmworth look like he plays for the Dolphins, not the Broncos. But look, I actually went into halftime thinking that we should be 10 points up the way that we were playing. And the Rabbitohs were good. The Broncos were good. But they just, towards the back end, they just didn't have that go forward, which didn't give blokes like Reece Walsh that space. And usually Ezra capitalizes on, Payne Haas's big runs, and kind of felt like we ran out of gas. Disappointing from a Supercoach standpoint that I watched AJ drop it over the line a couple of times and blow some. I nearly called them fast break points, but line breaks. And
yeah, you got your NBA hat on there.
Honestly,
how'd your Grizzlies go this week?
It was disappointing for Supercoach. It was disappointing for me sitting there at the game. At least I got front row seat to a Campbell Graham masterclass because he was scoring right in front of me in the second half. So.
Yeah, he had a good game, didn't he? And look, there's a good chance he's going to get picked for Origin. So a lot of people are avoiding going Campbell Graham. Otherwise, honestly, that's a moral. Like you just take him, you just pick him in your team. The bloke's averaging probably close to 100 over the last maybe 4 or 5 rounds. So
yeah,
Latrell 96, Walker 73, both producing some good points there. Bit of I guess on the depressing side of things, Davey Mawali basically ruined any VC loop for anybody who went VC. I know Nico Hines is probably good enough to VC at 126 anyway, but then you got to cop the Davey Mawali 12, so that's a little bit disappointing. Reece Walsh 23.
I wouldn't have done it if I've vice captained Nico. I wouldn't have done it. So really glad I captained him. It just wasn't enough. I sort of said 130, 140. And you got to draw a line in the sand, especially when you've got blokes like Davey sitting there, Hayes Dunster sitting there.
Yep. Yeah, lots of traps. Dory, luckily enough, didn't get on the field, so I got a DNP for him, which means he doesn't drop cash. So that's a massive win. Reece Walsh 23, AJ 29, Cam Murray 43. Not what you'd expect from guys that you're paying 600k plus for. But again, AJ's now bottoming out. You got him last week. I'll probably get him next week, not this week coming. I think next week he matches up against the Tigers. It's a bit of a better matchup for him. So I'll probably let him marinate for another week.
And I jumped on it, and he could have very easily scored 70 in this game watching it. He still did cover his break even. I can't be super disappointed. Who else was I going to play? Hayes Dunster?
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
You're not playing Dunster, are you?
Moved on guys that were leaking cash. Not super disappointed about AJ because that could have very easily been a 70-point game from him. If you just had to watch the game. Of course, if you didn't watch the game, then you would have been disappointed looking at the score. But yeah, he played all right. He had Cobbo defending him as well. So,
yeah, that's true. We know Cobbo Staggs edge is a good edge. So,
Adam Reynolds,
yep,
Patrick Carrigan, and Billy Walters, they were carrying him this game. They were the only ones playing with any ticker. Is Adam Reynolds a play? He's 660k. He had a 28 break even, just scored another 65. You're going to be looking for somebody through that Origin period.
Yeah, I've got in my notes here, is Reynolds the Cleary or Hines downgrade for the Origin period? He's not going to play Origin. He plays round 13. I'd say yes. He's been okay. He's obviously goal kicks.
Because I don't want Dillbags and Moses.
No,
Like,
me
all
neither.
it takes is one bad Parramatta game, and I'm absolutely buried. Like, at least some of the other guys I'm looking at, spoiler alert, some of the other blokes I'm looking at are like blokes like Sean Lane, Ryan Madison, if he doesn't get picked. Gutho, for example. I think that they'll get their points, but I think Mitch Moses and Dillbags, unless they're scoring 40 points, they can't coexist on a Supercoach team.
No, I completely agree. Moses is rocks and diamonds at the best of times. He gets you 140 this week, and next week he'll get you 12. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of having Moses and Brown in the same Supercoach team. So that's a fade. But yeah, Reynolds, good point. I'm all for that.
Yeah, so I'm only asking because I don't add a Broncos player because I know that I've got those maroon tinted glasses when I have a look. So yeah, I needed some validation there. So
yeah, no, you're on the right track for sure. Hey, you can keep your rose tint or your Broncos maroon tinted glasses on with Reece Walsh because I mean people are going to start to panic now that he's going to drop a bit of cash, right? Like he'll drop maybe 60K this week.
Yep.
He comes up against Manly into Melbourne and Penrith. Do you jump off? Because we've got guys like Jerome Buller now that are basement price fullback that will have a minus. So from what I've seen on Twitter, minus 33 break even next week he's going to have. Is that a guy that you would downgrade? Imagine how much cash you'd free up. Probably bloody 500K minimum. Do you make that play?
So we'll have to wait for trade talks, but I can't actually see Reece Walsh, after listening to Billy, can't actually see Reece Walsh getting picked. And I can see it as a pod play playing him. What worries me, and hopefully the Rabbitohs were just really good, but what worries me was when Payne Haas wasn't in the team, how he didn't get that space, that go forward. Payne Haas plays Origin.
Yeah, it's a good
was
point.
My biggest concern with Reece Walsh. So I was going into this week thinking, look, even if he scores poorly against these guys, I'm going to run with him and I'm going to keep going in. But that's my big concern.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, you're holding Reece Walsh for the bye because he plays the bye period. If he doesn't play Origin, that is obviously. And then obviously during that time, he's not going to have Payne Haas. They're not going to have the quick play the balls through the middle. He's not going to have the momentum. Yeah, good point. Actually, I haven't considered that at all. So
yeah,
there's a lot to think about.
Just watching it, sitting there and watching the line, like, Jordan Ricky tried his heart out and, these guys tried to go forward, but your Corey Jensens and your Palacias are not Payne Haas. Payne Haas was leading the Dally M for good reason. He's been the best front rower in the game. And I'm not sure Reece Walsh is as good without him. Like, Reece Walsh went back to Warriors Reece Walsh this week. He tried really hard. It just wasn't there.
But also the risk is Reece Walsh could have done this 3 or 4 times this season and he's gone and bashed out 70 points in the last 10 minutes of the game. He's honestly done that maybe 2 or 3 times this year. So It just didn't come this time and he finishes on his 20. So, and this is what you're going to get with Reece Walsh.
I'm going to try and think of him as a guy that I paid $550K for and be okay to cop. Like, it was still, what was it, 38? Like, it wasn't Tyrone Sloan scores.
You sure? I'm looking at 23.
Oh, really? Oh, it must have got downgraded.
Yeah, 23 he finished on.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was still pretty bad.
That hurts. Speaking of, let's flip the script, I guess, a little bit and look at the Rabbitohs because you've got Campbell Graham, we've got Latrell Mitchell, we've got Cody Walker. Those are probably the 3 best options for the Rabbitohs at the moment. And we're not discounting Cam Murray at all at this point, but we know that he's been underperforming. Do you look at any of those, considering that Campbell Graham, Trell, Cody Walker won't play Origin, but the other 2 might? Are any of these a buy for you leading into round 13?
Look, I think we've missed the boat.
Yeah, Cody's like 830K.
I'm not paying 830K for Cody Walker. Sorry.
That's monster price, mate.
Yeah, under no circumstance am I paying that money for Cody Walker because he just screams that he could be worth 600K in 3 or 4 weeks. I think they're going to be worse without Latrell, and say if Campbell Graham gets picked and Cam Murray will get picked and all those players as well. We could see. Honestly, this run has given me a bit more faith in Cody Walker that if he was 600K, then maybe I'd jump on.
Yeah. How about you mentioned Palacia He's dual position, front row, second row. He's 260k after this week. He's going to cover Payne Haas through the origin period. It looks like he's in that preferred kind of list of front row forwards that are going to be able to work through the middle of the field. Is he a buyer, or is he somebody that you'd look at? Because I know that front row forward stocks are dismal at the moment. Is that a guy you consider?
I look elsewhere. Like, he got 35 with him going and getting the world given to him, giving him, letting him be the leader of the pack. I suppose Flegler's still that, but yeah, look, I just needed to see a 40 or a 45. Yeah, 35 isn't enough to get me excited, even at front row forward. I'll just stay with Stefano, thanks, if I want mid scores.
Yeah, true. We'll talk about him later, but I'm off him. So off that guy. Mate, Saturday, this was a good game. I don't know whether you caught it. Raiders 31, Dolphins 30. Did you watch this one? This was a very interesting game. Whiten came out and basically said to everybody, hey, thanks for doubting me. I'll take 133. He had an absolute cracker of a game. Essentially, probably put the Raiders on his back. And he looked like the only bloke out there that really wanted to win. So full credit to him. The post-match press conference that he had as well was pretty emotional. You can tell that he's doing it tough out there in Canberra. Obviously doesn't want to leave, but is having to, I guess, is the way that I took that. But full credit to Whiten. Connolly Lemuelu, 120, scored a couple of meat pies. He had a great game. The guy I want to talk to you about is Corey Horsburgh, who got 98. He's a dual front row, second row forward. I mean, we've got front row forward issues right now, right? We're struggling. At the moment, I can only think of really a couple of guys that I would want to spend up for, and that's Joey Tarpany on the same team and Payne Haas, who is the premium front row forward one for this season. Is Corey Horsburgh a guy at 530k after this week that could probably maybe fill that void for front row too?
I mean, he's a better option than your boy Stefano. You're going to be looking at going somewhere from Christian Welch soon. I don't hate it. I'm looking at Hudson Young, just as that line runner. I know he has a try in him. I don't want Tarpany, Horsburgh, and Hudson Young. I don't even want Tarpany and Horsburgh.
Yeah.
Hudson Young and Tarpany are different enough that I'm okay with it. And even if I don't go Hudson Young, I don't really want Horsburgh and Tarpany. And Tarpany, I know he banged out a 60. It's not sexy. It's not 120. He's probably not going to score 120 this year, but he's been really consistent. So I'm going to go with Tarpany over Horsburgh. I've got Horsburgh in draft. Love it. And I know it's 500k and it's an easier move from Welch, but I don't think you want both of them.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Davey Clemmer's about 520k, 515k, and he's bottomed out. Would you prefer Clemmer over Horsburgh?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, look at Horsburgh's stats. So let me throw this at you. When he plays over 49 minutes, he scored 95, 56, 62, and 98, and he's 3% owned. There's worse options. I mean, if you don't have Tarpany, could you get Horsburgh? Because I know obviously
if you don't have Tarpany, I add him. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because your concern is having both your Ricky Roulette kind of players in the same team.
Mate, I could just see one getting 60 and the other two getting 20 1 week. That's the worst thing with Ricky Roulette.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hey, Jared Croker delivers, I guess, for downgraders, for people that were looking for that downgrade option. He gets a 69, scored a try, looked good. Hey, like I actually, Raiders are winning games. I actually don't see them dropping him. They've got Xavier Savage playing fullback in New South Wales Cup at the moment. Seb Chris obviously will move to centre. Xavier Savage will come back into this first grade team, but why fix it if it isn't broken?
Mate, Seb Chris looked great.
Yeah, he was really good.
Seb Chris looks really good. Like, I've got an idea, like, should we look at Seb Chris? Like, I don't know. He looks really good.
Yeah, no, that's a no from me, dog. No. I'm not looking at Seb Chris. I mean, he hasn't been looking good all year. He looked good for 1 game, 2 games.
He's looked good for the last 2 games. He scored 80-odd last week.
Yeah.
The week before, sorry.
I mean, yeah, obviously you get him in the centre wing. You don't get him at fullback. But
yes.
Major pod play. He's got a
3-round average of 65. So.
Okay. Hey, interesting. But hey, Croker at 270k. That's nice.
For the first time, I'm looking at the Raiders for options. Yeah. That is probably the point to play. Like, Seb Chris, 500k. Like, why not? He's playing fullback. I just added Tyrell Sloan Like,
That's true.
the Raiders are better than them. Like, a lot of people, like thousands of people added Tyrell Sloan.
Yeah.
Like, let's just look at the Raiders.
Poor Tyrell Sloan owners. That hurts.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, I should have got the sound drop in for this episode. Actually, that would have been good. Hey, Dolphins, obviously, they've got the round 11 bye. So we're not looking at buying any Dolphins players moving forward. But is there anybody here that impressed you? I mean, Lemuelu was good.
JMK, but I'm not spending nearly 700K now. I think I've missed the boat. I think when I've got Reed Mid-Marnie and Reese Mid-Robson, why would
That is the most mid pairing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, but they're not bad enough to move any of them. Like, it's, it should be JAMK, Jeremy above mid Marshall. So
yeah, fair. Hey, I tell you who's below mid is Robert Jennings. He got 14. So the good thing is he didn't fall over near the try line and decide that he was concussed near the line this week. So that was good. Like he didn't completely mess something up. But in saying that, he made a few errors and clearly that reflected in his score because he was pretty ordinary. And we called it last week, didn't we? We said he was a trap. A lot of people went there still. You know
what? Watching this game, he was nearly the first person in danger of not covering his negative break even.
It was so close. I'll tell you what, like it just defies logic as to why you'd look at a guy that when you've got two wingers, one in the extended reserves in Edric Lee and the other guy, Tessie New, about to come back into this team, why you go and get a 1 week cash grab with a guy that's pretty ordinary. Yeah, go for it. Which is, I guess, the reason why, one, you don't look at him, you don't look at Jennings, but two, you don't look at Dolphins players, I guess, with the round 11 bye. Guys, if you're obviously another proud sponsor of the podcast, Snap Fitness in Bendigo and Epsom. So if you're out in country Victoria or out in Bendigo or Epsom, go in and see the guys over at Snap Fitness there, Mark, Emma and the team, great supporters of the podcast. Go and see them. They'll look after you. Tell them the Insight boys sent you. They've got child minding there, which is, I think, a really big, important part. When you've got kids, it's hard to get to the gym when you've got kids. So I know Maddie and I, we're in the same position. And, trying to get to the gym when you've got young kids, it's a bit of a battle. So they've got child minding. Obviously, everybody there is qualified to look after kids as well. They've got their blue card and all that kind of stuff. So go in and see the guys over at Snap Fitness Bendigo and Epsom and let them know we sent you.
The pod was 10 minutes late because Theo wouldn't go to sleep. So, understand that. If it's the difference between a workout and somebody looking after your kids, it's a lifesaver. So.
Absolutely, head in and see him. Mate, let's move on. Saturday, Manly 10, lost to the Gold Coast Titans 26. I tipped Manly in this game. I thought they were going to be good. They were not good. They were actually very, very bad. And David Fifita capitalised on that with 114. So with David Fifita, I mean, he's the best second rower in the game at the moment from a Supercoach perspective. He's had one score under 69. He averages about 82 or 83 now after his 100. He will now be over 800K. Do you still shell out that cash? Or
Honestly,
do you look at him and go, he's going to play Origin?
He could do this most weeks.
But does he play Origin?
Look, we're saying that Billy's not going to pick Reece Walsh because of form. And yes, you say Reece Walsh had a bad game. Kalen Ponga had a worse game. So let's throw that out there. Billy might just keep going. David Fifita might not play till the second game. And only if we lose.
Hey, look, I mean, I'm not complaining because I've had Fifita since day one. I'm assuming that most people that are doing quite well still have Fifita, and he's just that lock and load 2RF that you don't even think about. So that makes complete sense. But, I mean, for anybody who doesn't own him, still got, 3 rounds before Origin, 10, 11, 12?
I add him. I find he is talent enough for me to rip my team apart if I don't have it. If you don't have him, you're probably not going that well. So you need him.
Like on that edge as well with Foreign, like it's not just about the try scoring threat from Fifita this year. It's about the creating threat that he has now. And obviously with AKP on that left wing, like that, they're obviously connecting really well. It seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Like if you haven't got him, you just pay up and get him.
Yeah. I think you shell out the money. He could be 900K at the end of the year.
Speaking of AKP 73, you're pretty happy with that, I think, because you held him and played him this week.
Yeah, I've held him through. I just had a look at him at 450k, just seeing him as a guy that could ton up at any given week. And yeah, repaid me this week. I really needed it too, because if he dropped to 400k, I was in danger of making any other moves. So
Yeah, for sure. I sold him, I think, 2 weeks ago for Ruben Garrick. So, I mean, that didn't play out well, did it?
nearly straight swap in a week, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say Ruben Garrick's leaking some cash, so you don't want to be in that boat.
Let's talk about Garrick. I'm worried about him. I'm worried that they didn't play him at fullback with Turbo out. And I know that they want to give Keon Weeks some minutes. He didn't look really good at center. They're trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. Just play him at fullback. He's good at the wing when Turbo plays. Just play him at fullback. Otherwise, do you jump off? Like, do you just cop the 120k? I think I'm too stubborn to do it.
I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned about it. I think. I mean, why is Seabold now going, yep, KO Weeks is the guy, we're going to play him at full? It's an important position. Like, you're coming second on the ladder, mate. You got to play a good player at fullback. KO Weeks was pretty ordinary, let's be honest. And no one's expecting him to be great, but you just put Garrick at the back. You just put him at the back and you just let him do his thing. He did it last year when Turbo was out for 2/3 of the year and they still did okay. They made top 8. They competed in the finals. Like, why are you playing around with this now, trying to blood a young bloke when you're coming second on the ladder? It absolutely baffles me.
Yeah. Deserves 10 in the bin for that, because just genuinely, just put Garrick in there, plug and play. You have the best fullback coverage, probably outside of the Roosters.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Garrick would get fullback money if he went to 12 out of the 17 teams in the NRL.
Yep.
Comfortably. Probably more.
Sure.
I'm probably underselling him, to be fair. He'd play fullback at any team in the competition aside from maybe the top 3. And that's it.
Yep.
Anyway, rant over. Move Garrick to fullback. Seabold. I know Anthony Seabold will be watching this episode, so hey, Seabs, if you want to win some more games this year, chuck Garrick back there, mate, and you'll be right. Turbo should be back though next week, from what we've seen. I jumped off Turbo this week. I think 20,000 people jumped off Turbo this week, which makes sense. You didn't, though.
I did too. I did in the end. That was my last minute move for Sloan, so
okay.
Pretty happy about that. But to be completely honest, like, I could have just moved Warbrick and been even happier. So I don't know. It gives me some flexibility this week, which I'll talk about in my trades. Some really good flexibility. So stay tuned.
Tofoa Sipley. Everybody was really keen on him as that little front row forward plug to save people from having to take an AE this week, and he may well have taken an AE with 12. So bit disappointing you burnt a trade on him.
Pasecki and Kepi owners were bailed out. It's just that Sipley owners weren't. So
yeah, for sure. And Brimson, anybody who bought Brimson, you were a bee's dick away from getting Brimson yourself, I think, from memory.
You know what? He outscored Sloan. So.
He outscored Turbo this week, mate. That's all you got to worry about, really.
He outscored Sloan as well, and Sloan played 80 minutes. So. Yeah,
that's brutal. So injured hamstring, I think it is. It sounds like a bit of a chronic hamstring injury that he's got, reoccurring one that's just going to keep popping up.
You know what? I'm going to keep an eye on him still, because having that 20 in his rolling average, he's $550K. I was $2,700 away from moving Katoa to Brimson, which I would have done it, and I would have been spruiking. I would have been really happy about it. So I really do want to get off Qatar at some stage. So I'm looking at who to go, and Brimson is probably my guy.
Yep. Yeah, there's worse moves. It just depends how long he's out for as to whether or when you can make that move. Hey, lastly with this game, and not specifically with Manly, it looks like Josh Schuster stocks are rapidly dropping, with Kyle Flanagan being effective immediately, moved over to Manly, and it looks like they've gone and bought him for DCE cover through the origin period.
Yep.
But that is code for Schuster is incredibly unfit and we're not rating him and we need another half or another playmaker.
Yeah, I would have hoped that Cooper Johns was enough, but I suppose if Schuster's not playing and, you know, they don't want to play weeks in the halves, then you've got to do it. Flanagan will steer the ship. it'll be fine. If he's got a dynamic other guy beside him, I think that he's good enough to play every week.
As bad as this sounds, and as good as a bloke as Cooper Johns is, I'm sure his TikTok seems to be better than his NRL play, because he was so bad. He was so bad on the weekend. Like, nothing he did turned out to be any good at all. And I don't know whether they're obviously not they made this decision before the game, but I feel like maybe they're losing faith in Cooper Johns to be that 5'8" or that second option. And hey, is Kyle Flanagan a better option? I don't know. I'd probably say he probably isn't, but
he's probably safer.
Yeah. I guess
Kyle Flanagan doesn't make too many mistakes. He just doesn't
do anything good.
I've never seen him change the game.
No. But hey, yeah, he could be the guy that saves him through the buys. So that's fine. I understand that move.
I've just got that Hamoli covered his break even, and he's done 66. And if he doesn't get picked for Origin, he's somebody I would look at. I just think that he's going to play Origin.
Yeah, I think he's going to get bench minutes in Origin, which kind of rules him out. I mean, hey, it might mean he gets rested and we can pick him up cheap in round 2021 for the run home. So I'm not overly upset with that. I had Hamoli Olakau'atu last year for the majority of the season. He was so good for me. It's a shame we can't pick him up again, but hey, good luck to him if he plays Origin. He's probably in the best 17 there.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, all right, take a seat, mate. Step aside. Tigers 12, Panthers 8. Well, hey, honestly, I just on a serious note, the Tigers played the best football that I have seen them play in over 2 years on the weekend. Just everything that they did worked. Luke Brooks played the best game he's played in a very long time. 240-20s, controlled the game. Tempo of the game was great. Attack, it was super wet as well. Did you know that the Panthers have played 5 games in the rain and haven't won one this year?
Yep.
Could be an omen. So
the wet pussies. I heard they've been called. So
yeah. It's good. I like it. But 90% completion from the Tigers. That won them the game, essentially. So unfortunately, though, from a Supercoach perspective, it just meant that none of the players really scored that well.
No, and I know that we've all got stocks in the Panthers for obvious reasons, but it did give us a bit of perspective that maybe we could look at some of these Tigers players. I really like a game like this for having a look at some players. Look, they're not going to do it every week, but it's wet weather. Like, just remember, like, if this was dry, like Jerome Buller, we could have been talking about a ton. Appy Coruscant, we would have been talking about as nearly an 80. Like, yes, he scored 50 in this stupid wet weather. And yes, they lifted. And look, they just needed some confidence. They nearly looked like they tried to lose it at the end, but they held on.
But that's what happens when you haven't won a game for so long. You just forget how to win. So, and to be fair, I think the Panthers would have beaten us by about maybe 12 to 18 points if it was dry. It was just one of those games that become really sloppy, uncharacteristic Panthers errors in this game. So, Isaiah Yeo, 74, he's the only Supercoach relevant person we need to talk about, really. And in terms of the busts, before I get to the mid-ranges, Sonny Luke, 22, Taruva, 30, Stefano, 39. Like, bit disappointing there. Not a good Supercoach game, but Jerome Buller.
I'm not disappointed in Stefano, can I say? I know you want to talk about Jerome Buller. I'm not disappointed in Stefano because I think that's just what he is. He is my third front row forward. When I play him, I know he's going to get in and around 40.
Yeah. It's a good point. That is a good point.
I'm not disappointed in that. I just think that, yes, what happened is what we expected. The top 4 or 5, the top 3 from the Panthers, the top couple from the Tigers. When there's wet weather like this, your forwards go forward and your halves, it's really hard to score Supercoach points. You could just have a look at that and just go, well, Yo's scored fairly well. Hosking scored fairly well. Clemmer, hopefully he's turned it around. IPAP looked really good. Bateman looked really good. Look, the forwards just looked really good in this game from the Tigers.
So they should in the wet when literally all the ball goes up the middle of the field. That's just set up for the Tigers middles to do their job.
You spend a lot of money in your middles.
Yeah. I mean, we've got fallen guns now that are starting to pop up at the Tigers. You've got John Bateman at 580k. We've got Isaiah Papali'i at 600, who looks like maybe he'll drop again next week. And you've got David Clemmer at about 530 as well. So those three guys are three premium, proven Supercoach scorers. Do you look at any of them? I mean, the Tigers don't play around 13, which is probably a little bit of a bummer considering they're starting to bottom out. But are any of these guys a buy?
Yeah, I think Clemmer is.
In a weak front row forward position, it probably makes sense, doesn't it?
In a weak front row forward position, yes. If he was a second rower and he'd done exactly this, I'm probably going to say no, which is what I'm going to say for Bateman.
Yeah.
I need to see more from the Tigers before I jump on more than this. It's probably more that, hookers have been awful. That's why I was looking at Affy. Front row forwards have been awful. That's why I'm looking at Clemmer. And it could be a point of difference. Like, everybody's going to have Tarpany going through the bye period. Everybody's going to get off Haas and go on the Tarpany and then hope to move back onto Haas afterwards. Having Clemmer, I don't even know. Do people even watch Tigers games? The general public that, might watch just the games that come on Channel 9 and don't have KO? They probably don't.
True. Yeah, I guess you're right. I think you want to see the Tigers string together some decent games, and you also want to see Clemmer and IPAP and Bateman put up some consistent scores before you kind of jump on as a Supercoach fan. I'll tell you a guy that I'm watching very closely and could consider in the next week or two is Tyrone Peachey. If he can hold that left center position and he plays there and basically takes that Isaac Tungo position, he got 54, third highest scorer for the Panthers on the weekend. Yes, wet game. Don't take too much from that, but we know Peachy's a proven Supercoach scorer in the past. He breaks a lot of tackles. He gets a lot of attacking stats, a lot of work. He could be a guy at 279k that fixes all your problems in your 2RF if you need a downgrade.
Yeah, I don't hate the downgrade, or if you're like me and you're off Schuster and you find yourself a week where you've got to trade up your sleeve, I could get around that. I've still got Willie Army and Schuster sitting there. Hey, I was waiting for someone like Peachy to pop up. So
yeah, I've got Matty Dory still. So that could be the perfect kind of sideways trade, really, couldn't it?
I love that.
Before we move on to Sunday's games, mate, unless you had anything else on this Tigers-Panthers game, let's answer some questions very quickly.
Not really. I'm just going to say that I'm kind of off Appy after watching him, and I just think that he's going to play Origin. He's going to be nearly 600k. He was 540 coming into the week. 540 was my hot button for it. Couldn't get around it this week. Yeah, I think you've missed it now.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Appy should play Origin. It kind of makes sense. He looks above and beyond the best player on the park every time he plays. Doesn't matter where he's playing, he should be playing Origin. But then again, you never know. Brad Fittler's chasing the game, really, isn't he, this year? He's coming off a series loss, so he might be making some changes. So we'll keep a very close eye out on that. Shots is asking us, is Murray a sell? Cam Murray, what are your thoughts? Coming into Origin, a few back-to-back 40s and 50s. He's not looking good. I'll get his...
I think you kind of have to hold at this point, don't you?
Do you reckon he's dropped too far?
Yeah, I think he's dropped too far. I think that the swing will happen. If you're talking about, sorry, I'm just waiting for it to load, 670 and he's about to drop.
He'll drop about 40k this week, 30k?
Yeah, drop 40k. What are you going to get for 630k that you would think that would score more than Cam Murray every week? Well, I mean, the question that I'd ask.
I'd say most second rowers, considering, I mean, he's got a 40, a 60, a 61, a 50, a 46, and a 43 this year, which is what Jackson Ford numbers, realistically. But the problem is now you've seen him drop that probably 100, 110k. You're coming into Origin, do you just cop the loss? Because I'd argue that you just cop the loss now.
Yeah, I think I just sit him on my bench and play people like Jackson Ford. I'm not saying don't play Cameron Murray every week, because you're going to have a Preston that's going to be scoring 40s anyway. But yeah, I'd probably hold Murray through this period. And then through the bye period, just sit him on the bench. You have 3 bench spots in second row. It's the easiest one to hide someone, apart from selling.
And he should back up from what I'm looking at. Round 14 and 17, he'll back up. Yeah. Round 20, he won't. because they've got the buy in round 20. But I'd say early buy period, maybe just hold. He should get his work done through there, and you know what you're going to get from him. Not a fan of Ponga, Damo. That's fair enough. Tavita Totola, is he an option from the Rabbitohs? Plays round 13, covers a bit of origin, plays in the middle in a shit position.
No, I put in a waiver claim on draft if it makes you feel any better. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking at Totola. I think that there's probably some better options somewhere else than Totola at 450k.
Some good questions around Corey Horsburgh, Jack DeBellin. We've both spoken about that at the start. We like them
I
both.
would rather, we're talking about Corey Horsburgh. I'd rather spend the extra 50k for him.
Is Marju a sell?
Yes.
I'm going to say no. He got 40 and did nothing. Like at the end of the day, in the center wing, if you can get 40 every single week doing nothing, it was a bit like Talakai last season, wasn't it? Like when he did nothing, he still got 45 to 50 points, and people got the shits about it because they knew he could get 160.
Because they paid 780 for him.
And that too. And again, people are paid 780 for Marju. So that's why people are probably getting the shits about the scores. And yes, Bradman Best is a bit of a concern for me. The fact that he just doesn't pass and doesn't look. But I think Marju is probably a hold for now.
I just don't have a heap of faith in the Knights going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Knights. I don't know what it is, but I mean, that Ponga, Miller, Marju left edge is lethal. Like against any team. Imagine if you put those three guys on a Penrith team. Like they'd be the best left edge in the comp. So
even Dom Young on the other side's fantastic. But
Jackson Hastings, relatively good organizer, decent halfback. I just feel like because they're at the Knights, people don't look at them as much. But that's a quality edge. And when Ponga finds his feet and he starts getting good, this is only his second game. I mean, he's played 3 games or 3.5 games of football in about maybe 9 months. So we can't be too critical of him yet. I think he'll get going.
Yeah, and hopefully, but I don't know.
Crossed,
I would probably just jump off Marju. I actually am surprised that his base is so good. So
yeah, no, I'm going to hold. I'll say hold Marju. You say sell. So sorry, mate, we haven't helped you at all.
We haven't graded much tonight.
No, we haven't. Hamo wants to know what he scored. 12.99. I saw you scored, Hamo, because we're in the same league. 12.99. Ryan Hammond, big score. He was actually a guest on the AFL podcast the other day. Man knows his sport, and he's very good on the sticks on NBA 2K. So,
Dr. Hammer,
bit of a multi-sport athlete, Ryan Hammond. People are talking about Timoko at Canberra Raiders. Thoughts on Matty Timoko?
Honestly, just looking at Raiders players, I don't think you can go too wrong. Like, they had such a bad run at the start of the year that nearly all of them dropped cash. Trust your gut with someone like Matty Timoko. I won't be looking at him, but yeah, I don't hate it.
Another question here. Egan Butcher has come good, but will his minutes come back down with Angus Crichton and Satili Tupanua back? I'd say the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if it happens. It's a matter of when it happens. I know that we haven't talked about this, but Angus Crichton's 29 and 31 is really good for super coaches. Yeah,
for sure. He's about 3 weeks away from coaches. 3-4 weeks away from bottoming out, and then you just snap him up. He's not going to play Origin this year. That's a great buy.
Trading somebody like Jackson Ford or Jacob Preston for Angus Crichton, I never thought it would have happened.
Hey, I think the one thing, we're looking at Egan Butcher and going, he's come good again. He's doing all right. He's scoring well. But the thing is, you've got to remember that Angus Crichton and Satili Tupanua are their 2 preferred left and right edges. That's their starting edges. And then we've still got Nat Butcher, who's getting starter minutes. He's coming off the bench, Nat Butcher, for some reason. They moved Crichton to the bench, didn't they? And they started Egan. Bench, yes. Yeah, yes. So their edge forward stocks are so bloody strong at the Roosters that Egan Butcher's a week or 2 away from being off the bench, if out of the team, to be honest with you.
And I can't I'm going to talk about it early. The Warriors second rowers have been fantastic, but you can't score on these Roosters second rowers. These edge forwards from the Roosters, the best pack in the comp.
Yeah. Definitely. Troy wants to know who the punch-up with Schuster was. If the other player in the punch-up with Schuster was, do you know?
I heard he got in a fight with his own quad.
I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to try and find the answer to this because I'm very intrigued. All right, what else have we got? A lot of people talking about Horsburgh. Who's the worst passer, Targo or Best?
You know what? I don't know because I've never seen him do it.
Yeah, that's right. Stinking. Absolutely shocking. Put Stephen Crichton in that list as well.
Yeah.
So Jackson's asking for us non-Harry Grant owners, should we jump on now? 130k discount. Don't see him any cheaper. Do you get on now? I mean, the one thing I guess to consider with Origin coming up, last year through Origin, he got a bit of rest through the middle of the season. And
that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, so I traded him 2 weeks ago. Big gutsy move from me. I don't know whether I like it yet. I feel like I'm maybe on par with the 3 games that Reed Marnie had versus the 2 that Harry had. But do you really want to pick up another guy at that kind of cash? Yes, he's got a discount, but he's still, 699k or something?
I'm not grabbing him.
I feel like I'd rather JMK.
Yes.
A couple of 70s in a row, plays buys.
Honestly, if Harry Grant gets rested, you could go JMK through the Origin period, add Harry Grant for that golden run home. After round 20, the Storm's draw really opens up. It's beautiful. I really want some Storm players going into that. I might even grab one of their wingers, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad shout. Hey, Ryan Madison's brother was the one that got in that fight. So it wasn't even another player. It was just Ryan Madison's brother. Do you reckon that the fight was over who would pay the 50 cents at the vending machine if it was Ryan Madison's brother involved? Because we know that there's a bit of history about not wanting to pay for things in the Madison family. So
it was probably that. Could
be. Selman wants to know what people are doing with Walsh. We had a little bit of a chat about that one before, but what's your final decision? Yes or no? Do you sell him or no?
The way that I gathered it, you were in team sell and I'm in team hold. I'm going to be holding him because I think that a lot of people are going to be hopping off him. And I think the Broncos, you look at their first half last game against the Rabbitohs. They've still got a lot to give. They were missing their 5'8". They were missing the best forward in the game. We were in that. Yes, we let it go at the end, but we were in that. And yes, they scored 2. Look, we lost by, would we lose by 30? And they scored 2 tries while we're in the sin bin, while Herbie was in the sin bin on 12 players. I'm not as disheartened as I probably should be about this Broncos loss because I went there expecting a loss because Payne Haas is as good as he's been good. Let's just hold on to Walsh and think of him as a guy that you paid $550K for. Look, next week, people could be paying $500K for Sebastian Chris. Could be paying $500K for Tyrell Sloan. I'd rather Walsh.
Gross. Never paying $500K for Tyrell Sloan. 440 was a stretch as it was. Let's move on. Sunday this afternoon, Roosters 14, Warriors 0, torrential rain. Bit of a tough game. Bit of a shit game to watch. Yeah, it was. Egan Butcher 86. Adam Fanua-Blake, people would be happy with, got 76. So a few people bought him in to kind of plug a hole in front row forward, but you paid $610 to get him. I don't know whether I want to pay $610 for a guy like Adam Fanua-Blake when Tohu Harris is due back in a week, I think NRL physio said. So that means he's not going to be playing lock. He'll play front row, less minutes. Not a fan, really, moving forward.
Look, I think a lot of people jumped off Haas this week and got onto Adam Fanua-Blake, which, you know what, he played and Haas didn't. It's burning a trade. But when you have a look at this game and you look at the top 4 scorers from the Roosters were all forwards, and maybe the top 7 were forwards from the Warriors. It really just explains the kind of the game that it was. And yes, really good if you had the stocks in forwards. But I feel like you're sharing a lot of love with the Warriors. We still haven't really seen their proper rotation. I know it's crazy that it's round 9 and we still haven't seen their rotation. But yeah, the Roosters are just too good. For me to jump on Egan Butcher, no, with Angus Crichton sitting there. Tell me you wouldn't prefer to play Angus Crichton minutes if he was 100% than Egan
Butcher. No doubt. Angus Crichton's a state of origin quality forward. There's no way in the world even Butcher gets
Australian
minutes.
quality forward.
Yeah, exactly. No, spot on. Bingo. I think Crichton comes back in once he gets his fitness back. It's just a conditioning issue for him.
And then Egan's banging out 30s and 40s off the bench.
Yeah.
Hey, let's not overreact.
One thing we haven't not considered yet, and we haven't talked about yet on this podcast, but we need to talk about it now, is that Joey Manu is about to play his third game at 5'8" next week.
Yep.
Which technically means, based on what Supercoach HQ have told us, that when a player plays 3 games in one position, they go up for grabs or they go into consideration for dual position. So Joey Manu, imagine if you could plug and play Joey Manu and Dylan Brown in your 5'8" for the rest of the season. That is he's automatically probably a 60% kind of player then. You just have to have him in your team if you can play him at 5'8".
Mate, I would feel like the New Zealand coach, brew. That is exactly what I want.
The accent was terrible, by the way, just to let you know that in advance. That was awful. But hey, I'll put on whatever accent you want me to put on if that means that I can get Manu in my 5'8" this year.
Mate, I would salivate at that. Even with these cheapy centre wingers coming in, being able to have the flexibility to move out Katoa for one of these blokes from the Raiders, or just honestly anything, because 5'8" has been so dismal. That would make my week. Joey Manu would be very well owned if that happens. I know a lot of people had him last week, but he wasn't well owned before that. So,
and I guess talking Jules, Christopher's mentioned that Peachy will probably get centre wing if he plays 3 games there as well before the round 12 updates.
I'd much rather play him at centre wing than I would at second row forward.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, even if you get him next week, right, or the week after, and then they make the change the week after that, you can then slip him down to centre wing and then bring in a second rower. So it's not the end of the world.
You said exactly the same to me about you and Aitken. You want second rowers that are playing in centre wing, though, rather than, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, for sure. No doubt. I'm not going to,
it's different with Peachy being on that Panthers edge.
As an example, Jack Bird, you want to play him at centre wing. You don't want to have to play him at 2RF, do you?
Exactly. Because he's actually an average 2RF, but a really good high base centre wing.
Yeah, exactly like the Talakai situation we had last year that worked out very poorly for us. So don't listen to us at all on that one. Teddy 54 was looked involved. He just doesn't look like Teddy.
No, I was close. I was looking at him last week. As someone that had Teddy sold before he leaked too much cash, watching him going down, felt like I had to move Turbo, which I still think is probably the right decision.
I'm not a fan. The Origin coming up, I just don't know whether it's a play anymore. He just doesn't look the same.
It's the wrong time. He only just covered his break even and he's 550k.
Yeah, no. So there's other options there. Gutho. Gutho's going to bloody go through the roof in price now. He's going to probably gain another 50 or 60k.
And I'm looking elsewhere for my buy coverage now. I just think he's too expensive. You got on at the perfect time, so.
Yeah, for sure. And Tohu Harris, so he's only 1 or 2 weeks away, so that MCL re-aggravation isn't as bad as what they thought it was. So obviously Josh Curran season lasted about 46 minutes. Until he got hooked with about 15 minutes left to go in that game. So
yeah, and I feel like he made a lot of tackles, but I think what did he run for 40 meters or something? He didn't do a lot of work on offense. Did a lot of work and looked really good, but you're not. You're going to be disappointed if you jumped onto him. You're definitely not looking at him now.
Let's move on. Last game, Dragons Bulldogs. Very, very close one. Good win for the Bulldogs.
Yes.
Braden Burns 93, so he's gone 85 and 93 in his first 2 games. What's the bet that he's 520k, so it's an awkward price. I won't say that he'll be the most bought, but I reckon some people are going to jump on looking at his negative break even next week going, oh, this could be an option. I'd advise people listening
to this, the people listening to this podcast won't be adding him because they've got more sense than that.
Mate, Jake
I think
Averillo,
if you've done any sort of research in this sort of thing, that you're not adding Braden Burns, but I think people will just look at the scores and hop on. So,
yeah, that's true. Jake Averillo 91. He's not a guy you look at. Jack DeBellum though 72. We spoke about him earlier on in the podcast. He could be a really nice dual position option at around that mid 500.
updates have already happened in this game, so they're onto it really early. So yeah, no, just 71, and Lomax got 74. So
nice. Okay. I mean, Jack DeBellin at the moment, what's his break even? 42. So he'll go up about 20K. So he'll be about 545K. About 20 odd K under his starting price. He's in 651 teams. 0% owned.
I prefer that. I think the pedigree's there. I prefer that over Corey Horsburgh. I know Corey Horsburgh has a try in him. I know he's probably a bit more exciting to watch, but from my front row forward, I just want him. If I could go Welch to DeBellin and get 60s instead of 50s, I'd be a happy man.
Yep. So let me ask you this. If you had to choose Jack DeBellin or Jack Bird, which Jack are you picking?
DeBellin, because of the position.
You don't like the centre wing 2RF duel?
Look, I do really like it, but I just want to find somebody at front row forward, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shit position, isn't it? You just got to try
like
two playable players.
You know what? You can just go Peachy or someone, and he's an awkward price. Like, I'm paying Alex Johnston price now for Jack Bird.
Yeah.
You know.
Fair enough. Hey, unfortunately, Sloan, that cash dried up as quick as it came. And look, we said this last week. The risk was always there with Tyrell Sloan, knowing that his base is in the toilet. Like, I think the game that he scored 90 odd, he had like 11 in base or something. Like, it's, you know what you're going to get with him. He's going to rely heavily on attacking points. But the thing is, like, the Bulldogs played some good footy. They played really well. They defended him well. Full credit to the Bulldogs.
Number. Honestly, as soon as he looked like he was getting the ball, they were out of the line and at him. And you know what? Really good game plan from Serraldo. So.
Yeah, well played to them. So Sloan's cash is going to dry up, unfortunately.
Can I tell you that he does have another 90 in him, like the way that he plays. And the Dragons don't have a terrible run. That was you actually brought it up to me, I think. Have a look at the Dragons run. Yes, the Bulldogs wasn't the game that we'd hoped that it'd be for him. But if you got him, I don't rage trade him. I hold him through round 13. And that's when I look at moving him.
Yeah.
I think he's a play every week at this stage.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Jackson has said Jack DeBellin, Jack Bird, Jack Armstrong. Get that garbage out of here. Luckily, we got this one loaded up.
Get that garbage out of here!
Well played. Very well played. I love it when people prop me to get a soundbite in, especially when we've already got it loaded up.
You know what? If he didn't have such good takes, I would have sent Jackson too. So there's a lot of
Yes. Hey, also on the, I guess the last thing for me on this game was that Tavita Pangai Jr. Got hooked after that little offload that led to that full length of the field try. Serraldo did not look happy with TPJ after that one, pulled him straight off the field. And that's the risk that you pay with Tavita Pangai Jr. You know, he's going to have brain fades. You know, he's going to do some stupid shit. He's going to get himself suspended. He nearly got in a fight. It's what you get. It's what you pay for with him. So
and look, you always knew that was going to be the way with TPJ. I set myself a rule the other week of him getting over 50, and I would have added him. I tell you what, I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, that's a good save. He was doing you a solid by not scoring well.
Yeah, exactly. Can I add a couple points? Carl Oluwapu on debut looked fantastic.
Yep. He did look good.
If he can get an 80-minute role, I think he's in my team.
He has to be, doesn't he? I mean, that's 200K that you go Katoa down to him. You can do a lot with 200K. Happy days.
I move Joey Manu back to the centres if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, hey, Kalen Ponga might hit 200K at this rate. So you might be able to pick Kalen Ponga
after Origin. You could straight swap Carl Oluwapu to Kalen Ponga.
It's a bit outrageous, isn't it? But, could happen.
Do you hop off Jacob Preston if you've got him?
No. 80-minute edge back rower. I mean, yeah, he spent 10 minutes off the field getting a HIA, and he got 45. He could have got 60. You know, like, so I'm not overly concerned at all. 45 break even.
Same again.
Yeah. He's 535K roughly. He averages 60 for the season. What more do you want, really? Like, he's going to do what you need him to do. He doesn't play round 13, which kind of sucks, but I think he's a hold now until somebody else comes up that's a either a downgrade or you can upgrade to a pure primo, like a Cam Murray for the run home. You could probably go sideways too.
Yep.
So I'd say hold.
Yep, perfect.
Mate, that's 8 games. We've covered the majority of the questions as we've gone, which is great. Yes, Selman, the games have updated. They're all done. Isn't it amazing how quick they can update these games on a bloody Sunday night? But it takes them, how long does it take them to update Thursday? Bloody 2.5 days. Just absolute rort.
It's because they're all hungover.
Yeah, it could be that. Trade thoughts, mate. What are you thinking for trades this week? I know we've got a lot of time up our sleeve. We'll talk about it more on Tuesday.
I wish I could have saved one last week, but I wasn't able to. I think I will be looking at Jareen Buller for Will Warbrick or Hayes Dunster. And I think I'll look to save the other trade. The other guys I'm thinking of is Sean Lane or Hudson Young in for Preston or Hosking. But I had a bit of a look at round 10 for Hosking and looked like a good matchup. And Sean Lane probably hasn't quite bottomed out yet. So I think that I'm hoping to add him before round 13. He's one of those guys I want.
Yeah, nice.
What about you?
Oh, a lot of decisions to make. I don't have the dual in the fullback at the moment. I know you do, which makes it a bit more flexible.
I've got Sloan or Garrick basically sitting there. So, yeah. That's the flexibility that I was talking about with Turbo.
Yeah, I've got Walsh and Gutho. So obviously Gutho's there to stay now. The decision I need to make is, do I sell Reece Walsh at 150 break even, which is likely where he's going to be sitting next week. He's got a tough run coming up. I'm actually siding towards maybe just selling him. It could hurt me, but I'm just thinking the amount of money that I've been able to make from him, the 220, 230K that I've made from him, I can really use elsewhere during the buys rather than holding him. Yes, he might play Origin, he might not. But he's going to bleed some cash and he's got a tough run coming up.
If you go on the Dream Bully, you're going to have 500K to spend elsewhere.
And that's my thinking, is that I do that move. I'm not going to play Jareen Buller. I don't need to. I can bolster another position then. I can probably strengthen my second row or my front row. And so essentially, I don't know what move I'm going to make yet, but let's say, for instance, I make the Walsh downgrade move. I can basically do anything. I can go wherever I want to whoever I want. So the players I want out are Stefano. I want him gone. I want Sonny Luke gone. I've got Dorian Schuster in the 2RF that I would love to get out of my team. I've got Isaiah Katoa in 5'8", and I've got Taruva that's not an urgent sell, but somebody that I'd like to move before he starts to bleed too much cash. So those are the 6 guys essentially in my team I'd like to move. Now, the 6 guys I've got on my watch list are Jack Bird. He's got DPP. Also, maybe Jack DeBell and add that into the list. I wouldn't mind either of those guys, not both, but one of. Corey Horsburgh, watching, not super keen on. Alex Johnston, I do want. 100%. I want Alex Johnston in my team. Come round 11, they play the Tigers into the Dragons, I think.
I bet you're watching that one after looking at him. I bet you're watching that one just feeling like you dodged a bullet as he dropped the ball over the line.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I felt the same as when Nathan Cleary dropped the ball over the line as a Tigers supporter, thinking I owned him in Supercoach, but I also was a Tigers supporter and wanted them to win the game. So I was very torn with that one. Jeremy Marshall-King, I wouldn't mind. If I have the cash, I could go Sonny Luke to JMK if I had that cash from Buller. Also, Tyrone Peachy, I think, is probably just a little bit of a stopgap that I could use in the next 2 weeks and just go. I could go sideways, literally, from Dory to Peachy. So that might be a play in the next 2 weeks, and Ponga I'm looking at as well, being cheap. So I've got a lot of options there, but I'm not quite sure whether I do the Walsh downgrade or I wait another week against Manly, because that is a nice matchup against Manly.
Yeah, I know I should know this, but has Peachy played any other games this year off the bench or anything?
Nothing.
No. So
that's his
first game. So I have a week.
Yep. You've got some time. 43 scored in his first game in 20. Yep. So
cool. Because I was just thinking I'm not playing him this week, but he is.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, no, that's a lie. He played 40. Yeah, he scored 43 against Canberra in round 5.
Okay, come off the bench that 1 week. Yep. Cool.
Yep. So this next week is the week we get him if we want the price rise for Peachy. So maybe that's the play. Maybe that's something I'll look at this week. But that's my thinking. My thoughts are. So, mate, any last thoughts? I think we've covered all of the questions tonight. Actually, no, we've got a couple. Samuel has asked, should he go Jackson Ford to Jamin Salmon? Please don't. Taruva to any. So don't go Salmon. Do you go Taruva to any winger? And if a winger, who would you go to?
All right.
Just depends how much cash you got.
So I'm just going to go with the forward to salmon. We've been talking about peaches at Tiffany's. I think we should go forward to peaches to get that money. And then when you go to Ruva, I really like maybe Alex Johnston.
Yeah, Alex Johnston is the obvious pick.
I could see happening. Yeah, it's almost a straight swap. You're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars going forward to Peachy, and you're probably going to get the same output. I don't think Ford's a definite sell right now. Definitely not to Salmon. I would prefer to have Ford in my team than Salmon.
Oh, no doubt. I don't know why people are considering Jamin Salmon at all. But the tough part for the Warriors are they have the Panthers next round. So do you move him now and just go, yeah. Well, I mean, they've got the Bulldogs after that, but then they've got a bye in round 12 too. So maybe that is the move. Maybe you do move on Jackson Ford now, take the cash and just run with it.
Maybe.
Don't hate it.
He's got that accent.
He does. That really poor accent that you've butchered a number of times tonight. Troy's asking, do you upgrade Hosking, Ford, or Preston? That's actually a really tough question.
So it's Hosking or Preston for me, and I'm actually considering it for Hudson Young. I do like that it's a straight swap, Hosking to Hudson Young.
Who do you? So Hosking is the guy you're going out.
Yeah, only because he's worth more, and I just sort of feel like you can get the same out of Hosking and Preston on any given week.
Yeah. Lachlan, they're ending lockout tomorrow morning, mate. Probably around 10 o'clock, I'd say, is most of the time. It annoys me why they take so long. But anyway, tomorrow morning, 10, 11 o'clock is usually the time that you'll find out what's going on. Dylan Brown is a must this week. You're paying $750K again for him. Yep, agree. You've got to get Dylan Brown into the. Lachlan also wants to know, should we look at saving trades this week or no? It just depends what your situation is with your team. I'm not quite sure, obviously, what your team looks like, but
I'm going to try and save one. And I know I said that last week and then just added Sloan right at the end. But I think with 28 trades left, this is a week that I really need to save one.
Yeah, I would say if I was at 28 like you, I'd be saving. Yep. I have 30. I only made one move last week, so I've got a little bit more room to move. But we need to remember that there's still how many rounds left? We're coming up to round 10. Yep. There's still
17 rounds.
18 rounds that we've got to consider with 30 trades. So you've got like 1.5 trades around. So we're going to have to save trades at some point. So, if there isn't anything urgent
every 3 weeks, yeah.
If there isn't anything urgent screaming out at you that you're either an injury or whatever, you're just going to have to call the Jets a little bit at this point of the year, I think. Sam meant the Peach. He meant Peachy when he was talking instead of, what's his name? The weak-guarded dog.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I actually really like that. I like Ford to Peachy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, mate, let's wrap up. Guys, obviously, if you've made it to the end, we appreciate you hopping on. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like. We appreciate your support as we grow the channel. We'll be back again.
Thanks for coming. I just really enjoy talking shite before TLT as per usual. So
yeah. Thanks, Jeffrey. It's always good. Jeffrey gives us some really constructive feedback week on week, but he continues to tune in. So
he wants to get set for 10 in the bin. I think
he does. So. That's all right. Thanks for coming back, Jeffrey.
I might bring him on one time for the show. So
absolutely, I'll sit out. We'll get Jeffrey on for sure. Guys, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate your support. We will be back on Tuesday night to talk all things Team List Tuesday. We'll talk about teams and trades and everything else. Otherwise, enjoy the week. Hopefully some green arrows tomorrow morning, and we'll catch you on Tuesday. See you later.
Bye.